Picture this. You're just pouring your morning coffee, looking out the window, and out of nowhere, for exactly 5 short seconds, the Earth completely, utterly stops spinning. Welcome to today's Explainer. Would we even notice a tiny 5-second pause? Or would civilization as we know it literally end in a flash? Just let that catastrophic idea hang in the air for a second. 5 seconds. That's barely enough time to take a deep breath. But in the world of planetary physics, a sudden halt wouldn't just be a glitch, it would unleash an absolute apocalypse. And to understand exactly why those 5 seconds would be the final 5 seconds of modern history, we really have to look at what's happening to you right this very moment. Chapter 1. Earth is always moving. Okay, let's dive into this. Look, even if you are sitting perfectly still on your couch right now, you are actually hurtling through space. 1,670. That's our magic number. Down at the equator, we're cruising at a blistering 1,670 kilometers, or over 1,000 miles, per hour. Guys, that is literally faster than the speed of sound. You, the screen you're looking at, the building you're in, the whole shebang is rotating at a totally dizzying velocity. So why aren't we all violently dizzy? Well, we don't feel this blistering speed because absolutely everything around us is moving at that exact same velocity. The atmosphere, the oceans, the massive tectonic plates beneath us. It's this perfectly synced cosmic ballet. It's kind of like cruising smoothly in a jet plane, right? As long as your speed is constant, you can pour a glass of water without spilling a single drop. But what happens when that plane suddenly slams on the brakes? Which brings us to Chapter 2, the sudden stop. Now, what's really interesting about this is, imagine that exact terrifying split second. The planetary brakes are slammed, the rotation drops to absolute zero, but here's the devastating reality of inertia. The ground beneath your feet suddenly stops, the bedrock completely locks up. But you do not. Because you aren't firmly bolted to the Earth's core, your body holds on to all that massive forward momentum. Literally everything on the surface instantly becomes a supersonic projectile, just rocketing east at over 1,600 kilometers per hour. Think about the sheer scale of that for a second. Everyday objects violently tear away. Cars, instantly ripped from the streets. Trees, violently uprooted in a microsecond. Entire concrete buildings would just snap off their foundations like fragile toothpicks. Literally anything not chemically bonded to the deep crust just aggressively, violently keeps moving east. And yeah, that includes something unbelievably massive, our oceans. Chapter 3, Oceans and Mega Tsunamis. You know that water covering 70% of our planet? It holds an unfathomable amount of mass, and right now it acts like a giant planetary bulldozer. The oceans would violently surge right across the continents. We're talking about monstrous mega tsunamis, literally hundreds of meters high, sweeping miles and miles inland. Coastal cities wouldn't just flood, they'd be completely pulverized, wiped off the map beneath towering walls of water in seconds. But hold on, because water isn't the only fluid on Earth with momentum. The sheer, shocking force of this sudden stop generates something honestly equally horrifying: supersonic winds. The very air around us would just keep moving at the Earth's previous rotational speed. This creates explosive, planet-scouring wind gusts that actually exceed the speed of sound. No way to hide from that, right? Let's move to Chapter 4, the atmosphere unleashed, and see how this builds. While the ground is completely stationary, the sky above becomes an absolute nightmare. The atmosphere basically just drags across the Earth like sandpaper. Hurricane-force winds don't just hit a coastline, they become a permanent planet-wide condition. This massive wall of air picks up the ruins of our civilization, turning the sky into a giant blender of fatal flying debris. And the sheer amount of pulverized dirt and rock thrown up into the air, it creates these massive, dense dust clouds, plunging the entire planet into pitch darkness for weeks. And then comes Chapter 5, the sudden restart. Okay, take a breath. We've hit the 5-second mark. The terrifying pause is finally over, and the Earth suddenly, violently jerks back into its spin. Now, you might think this is the rescue, right? Actually, scratch that. It's not. The restart is a second entirely devastating impact. So the crucial point is, Step 1 brings massive planetary earthquakes as the tectonic plates are aggressively jolted back into motion. Step 2, it triggers global volcanic eruptions driven by immense, sudden stress on the mantle. And Step 3 is just the absolute, massive destruction of whatever tiny fragments of the surface somehow managed to survive the stop. The restart literally finishes the catastrophic job.
Chapter 6, the reality check.
All right, let's step back from the edge of the apocalypse and bring our heart rates down completely. You can breathe totally easy. This whole cinematic apocalyptic sequence, it's 100% hypothetical. The fundamental laws of physics and the conservation of angular momentum make an event like this essentially impossible. The Earth cannot and absolutely will not suddenly hit the bricks. We just use these extreme thought experiments to truly grasp the incredible, mind-blowing physical forces that quietly govern our universe every single day.
But space is absolutely full of fascinating what-if questions that totally stretch our understanding of reality. So, if we somehow survive the Earth stopping, what incredible scenario should we dive into next? What if the moon just vanished? Or what if Jupiter came terrifyingly close to Earth? Just think about the unimaginable gravitational chaos that would unleash. Let your imagination race on that provocative